Hey guys, how you doing? My name's Amin, and I want to do a market analysis of my favorite coin, which is Neo, formerly known as Ant shares. And I'm looking at the Neo versus Bitcoin chart on Bittrex, the Bittrex exchange. The charting tool I'm using is called tradingview.com. The link is in the description for that. It is free, but they do have a subscription service as well. But in all honesty, guys, I was using the free service for like months before I decided to upgrade and go for the premium. So yeah, anyway, this is the 1 day chart for Neo. What that means is each candle represents 1 day. So just to give you some perspective, if we measure the time from here to where we are now, we're looking at around 113 days. Okay, so that's the time frames we're looking at here, and basically, guys, we can see with Neo, we've just been kind of steadily going on price waves, and we've been steadily kind of going up. So as you can see here, we had a nice kind of impulse move up, and then we had a correction in the market, the nice ABC correction down here, and then we had a nice another market cycle basically began. This is called a market cycle here. This is another market cycle here that ended, and then we had a nice correction down here, and now, guys, we can basically see it looks like we're starting another market cycle, which is really exciting because, as you can see, if you measure the percentage gains on each one, like the percentage gain on this one was over 1,000%, 1,100%. Yeah, so to put that into perspective, if you put $10,000, if you bought $10,000 worth of Neo at the bottom here, you would have ended up with $110,000, right? If you just put in $10,000 there, all right? So this market cycle here went up to 460%. Yeah, so obviously that's kind of, in hindsight, guys, that's assuming you bought right at the bottom and sold right at the top. Obviously, most people aren't going to do that. You need to be extremely, let's say, fortunate to buy right at the bottom and sell right at the top. Most people will be buying around here and selling around here, but you'll still be making, if you time things right, you could still make easily like 150%. Me myself, let me just see where I bought, because I'll bring up my other chart here. This is one of the things about the premium subscription, guys. You can have loads of different chart setups already saved. Let me just see where I had purchased. Sorry, that's not it. Horizontal line. Yeah, here we go. These ones here. Okay, so this is where I've bought my Neo. Okay, so far, guys, you can see from this bottom line here, I think I bought a few $1,000s worth of Neo here. I'm already 36% up from here. Okay, from this line here, 30% up, and so on and so forth. From the top line, which is the very top price that I purchased, I'm 21% up, right? So it's pretty cool, guys, when you think about it. I'm just going to get rid of this chart now because I want to kind of do this analysis with you guys right from the very beginning, right? So first of all, when we're looking at this chart, the first thing that stands out to me, guys, is we are on a general long-term upward trend here. We haven't broken down below this trend line, okay, because this market cycle started here, it came back down and touched base here, started again, and if we extend this trend line from here, it came back down, but it did not drop below this trend line support here. You see this trend line support here? It maintained that support. So we can say that this trend is still very much in effect. So we can very much kind of just extend this out as far as we want, really, and this trend, this kind of upward road will be valid as long as this respects this trend. Then it's going to be valid, right? So Another thing, guys, we can, another things, I mean, for me, looking at this chart completely fresh, there's a few things that stand out for me here. I'm not going to discuss these moving averages with you on this video, but there is kind of a strong correlation with what's happening with this moving average here. Basically the 10-day moving average has crossed over the 30-day moving average here, and this is on the 1-day chart as well, which means that we've just started a very big long-term trend. Because as you can see, I'll just discuss it briefly with you here. When when the 1-day moving average crosses, it kind of just stays on that kind of upward trend. You can see here, I mean, this had already been crossed before, but it just kind of hugs this 10-day moving average until it starts trading below the line, and then it hugs the bottom of the line until it crosses. But anyway, that's something else altogether. So I just want to highlight some key kind of resistance points that stood out for me, and one is this former all-time high here. Okay, if we extend it all the way out, we can see this previous all-time high, yeah, was acted as some support and resistance here, and acted as some support here and resistance here as well. But this has actually become irrelevant now, because as you can see, we've crossed this line, we've crossed this area here, and we crossed it with some force, because you can see here when we got above it, it wasn't just a timid break. It was a real forceful break. You can see this 1-day candle was a real forceful break above this line. Okay, so I'll just get rid of this line again. So that's significant, guys. And if we do come back down, we're basically coming back almost towards this trend line. So if we go in another like couple of days time, this trend line here will be above this support and resistance zone here anyway, right? Because we're going above it right from the very base. Okay, so another thing that kind of stands out to me is this zone here, right? Sorry guys, I know I'm moving the chart about a lot. That's just the way I do things, right? So this line here, can you see the top of this candle here and the bottom of this candle here, and also the top of this wick here? This is significant to me, because if we extend it out, what we can see here is this is a very significant zone that we've just crossed here. All right, because this area that was created here proved to be resistance here, and it proved to be support here, proved to be resistance here as well. So on the way down, this proved to be support here. You can see support 1, 2, 3. You see the candles didn't close below that, and then as it crossed below, you can see it proved to be resistance here, and resistance here, and resistance here. It was resistance here for this big candle that we just discussed, that when we broke this previous high here, we had this big candle, but where did it stop? It stopped at this line here. You can see here it didn't close above this line, and the same thing for the next day as well. We didn't close above this line, and then then what happened? We broke above this resistance zone here, this long-term support and resistance zone here. Okay, and we broke through it quite forcefully. As you can see here, this candle here is quite a forceful candle. And since then, what happened was we had some bearish news from well, there was a couple of things happen on a technical level. I'll just explain to you. Let's bring up the 12-hour chart here. Yeah, okay, so I'll bring this one above here. Okay, so this is what we call the RSI, guys. Okay, and what we can see on this chart here, when we got to the top, the RSI on the 12-hour chart was looking extremely overbought, which means that the price is overextended. It needs to, there's an elasticity in price, right? When it gets overextended, it needs to pull back. So that's exactly what happened here, right? We extended the price, and it was overbought, and we had to kind of pull back. We were overbought on the stochastic RSI here, this is another oscillator. So yeah, we were basically due. It basically means you're due a correction, whether it be in the short term or long term, you're due a correction. So that's basically what happened here. Moving back to the 1-day chart, guys. Over the next 2 days, we had a correction, 1, 2. But where did we correct up to? If you check the NEO chart, we've corrected up to this support and resistance zone here, which I had previously, identified from this zone here, right? So that's basically a fourth confirmation. We had a few confirmations here and here. This is like a fourth or fifth confirmation of this zone, that this support and resistance zone is going to stick, right? So where are we now with the NEO price? Okay, we're now bouncing off this zone here, this support line, and now we're heading up in price. Now things are looking quite bullish for NEO, right? But what we need to do now is basically look at where the price could potentially find the next level of resistance, right? So for me, I mean, I'll be looking at the 1-day chart, and I can see here, this zone right here, looks like, it can be, I mean, most likely you can see that the number of 1-day candles here that were just kind of bouncing off this zone here, this is going to be a potential area of resistance right here. Okay, right here. Okay, so this zone here, I mean, I'm expecting it to eventually get above this zone, in all honesty. I'll explain to you why, and it's to do with momentum and yeah, it's to do with momentum and volume, basically, right? So let's just get rid of these previous support and resistance lines, because I don't like too many lines on my chart, right? I want to keep it kind of nice and clean, right? So we're heading towards this line, guys. Whether we like it or not, we're heading towards that line. And where is that line? That line indicates the 0.0087, 870,000 Satoshi range, right? And once we get past that zone, I guess, we could be looking at this zone here, right here. Okay, see, with this candle meets this candle here, and it also signifies the top of this candle here, right here. I would say this zone here, I don't know what price that is. It's 103. Okay, that 103 range is the next area, and then after that we're looking at pretty much all-time highs. I mean, there is a zone right here that I would say would be a resistance zone. But in all honesty, guys, what we're looking to do is kind of, just as we did here, is get above this zone and maybe come back and bounce off, get above the zone, come back, bounce off, and get above, right? That's basically what I'm expecting to happen. And I mean, if we look at the Bittrex chart, guys, 1 second, I'll go into markets here. Okay, so I do my trading on Bittrex. The reason being is Bittrex has a lot more coins, and I don't know, I mean, I'm more confident in Bittrex than I am with Poloniex. I used to do a lot more on Poloniex, but in all honesty, they kind of scare me sometimes with the way they operate, right? And with their, they all of a sudden the way they change their terms and conditions and so on. So anyway, I do basically all of my trading on Bittrex now. I think I will go back to Poloniex at some point, but I'm quite happy to kind of stick with Bittrex right now. So anyway, the reason why I think NEO has a good chance of like blasting through these support zones, like, I'm totally expecting this to maybe go like this, like that, and on, right? It's going to take days. It's not going to happen immediately. Like this area here took like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7 days a week. So the next 2 weeks or so, I'm expecting it to kind of get above these zones here, right? And one of the reasons why I think NEO has probably the best chance of doing this out of most of the coins is the volume is consistently high, guys. The volume most of the time is above Ethereum now, right? The NEO volume. And bearing in mind that this is a Chinese project, and China, you know, have been spreading a lot of FUD about cryptocurrencies, you know, banning crypto exchanges and so on and so forth. And in all honesty, that should hit a coin like NEO the hardest. And that has hit Ethereum as well, right? Because of the whole ICOs thing. But it should hit NEO very, very hard. And it has hit NEO very, very hard. And that's why we've seen this whole area here. I mean, I had purchased NEO here as well, right? But then the whole China announcement of them banning the exchanges came, and it hit NEO very hard. But I held, I didn't sell, I didn't get stopped out or anything like that. I just held because I knew eventually it's coming back up, right? And now what we're doing here is, if you look at it on the larger scale, we're actually forming a cup and handle here. That's the cup, there's the handle, and now we're heading up. Okay, so that's a potential cup and handle. It doesn't mean it's, you know, guaranteed, you know, but it's looking like it's you know, coming out that way, right? So anyway, so the point I'm trying to make, guys, is the volume with NEO is high, right? You can see on the Bitcoin chart, it's #1 volume. It's always kind of, you know, listed up at the on the banner on the front page, right? If you look at the Ethereum market, it's like #2 below Qtum at the moment. Qtum, I'm not expecting that to stay top volume like for long term. This is probably having a pump. It's probably, you know, it's a good coin, don't get me wrong, it's a very, very good coin, but I don't expect it to stay above NEO for very long, right? Because if you look here on the US dollar charts or USDT charts, the tether charts, or the market, NEO is #2, just below Bitcoin, and you can see it's almost got double the volume that Ethereum has, right? And in all honesty, guys, this is just getting started. So as this pumps, as this coin, you know, gets higher in price, as you can see here on the hourly chart, yeah, as this kind of gets higher and higher in price and starts surpassing this high here, then more and more people are going to jump in, and it's going to, you know, it's going to create that whole kind of feeling of, you know, everyone wants to kind of jump on the train, and everyone wants to kind of jump on the NEO bandwagon, and, you know, and it's just going to kind of, more and more people are going to buy it. Everyone's going to think, oh, this is it now, NEO's going to go like to the moon, and, you know, more and more money is going to come flooding into NEO, and yeah, the volume's going to kind of just push it higher, right? So that's what we're kind of looking for in the semi long term, right? Now, if we take a closer look at NEO, what's actually been happening over the last few days, right? We can see, like, basically here, over the last few days, this is the hourly chart now, guys, okay? So we can see when it was breaking out here, when it was breaking out here, it was just kind of forming a triangle pattern right here, a really nice kind of what we call ascending triangle, okay? And then ascending triangles usually resolve themselves on the bullish side, which it did. It came out aggressive, right? Then it had a nice pump all the way up, okay? And then what we saw again was the same thing happening here. We had a nice ascending triangle, okay? Again, like I said, these usually, when you look at the percentages, these usually resolve themselves on a bullish side, which it did. Again, it came out aggressive, right? And you can even, you know, if we look at the 30-minute chart, let's have a look at this. We could even call this a little ascending triangle and so on, until it kind of reached peak here, and you can see there's two on the half an hour chart. There's two reversal kind of I don't know if they're hammers, but you know, they're kind of reversal hammers going on here. This is kind of like a doji, this kind of like a reversal hammer, and then we had a confirmation here, boom, and then that kind of signified the semi long term, you know, or the short term downtrend, right? Okay, so now what are we looking at here now? Okay, so we had two things going on here. Again, this is the half an hour chart. We had this trend that was created here, okay, this trend that was created here. Then we had a break of that trend. We had a break of that trend, but then we were moving lower again. This is where the news from Korea came, right here. The news from Korea. I believe if the news from Korea didn't come, then this would have signified the beginning of the uptrend, okay? But right now, what's happening is we broke this trend, and then the news from Korea came, and we kind of headed back down again. Okay, so then what I was looking at is then the next trend that was kind of being created. So then I could say, okay, this area here, we get rid of this line because this trend has already been broken. There's no point in looking at that. So then I thought to myself, okay, this area here, this line, this top, this top, this top, this top, is another trend, right? And I was looking at this last night. I was expecting it to break the trend here. It didn't, right? And then I kind of went to sleep. And then today I woke up and I saw, okay, it didn't break the trend here, but it was kind of hugging that line at the top, and then decided to pull up here, okay? And since then, what we can say is created a short-term uptrend. Okay, so the trend has changed. So we can say it's creating higher highs and higher lows. All right, so there you go. Okay, so you can see this low here is higher than this low. This high here is higher than this high. This high here is higher than this high. Okay, so and this is the point where the trend has changed. Okay, so now we can basically say that, okay, we're in an uptrend now. Okay, so if we look at the hourly chart, we can say, okay, we're the uptrend now. So now what we can do is look at the key support and resistance zones. Okay, so one zone is here. I can say, I mean, one zone was here, right? And we broke through that. And not only broke through that, we broke through that and we turned it into support. Okay, so we broke through this line here once, twice, on 2 attempts. We broke through this line, and now we've made it into support. You see, it's cushioning our support here. Yeah. Another area I can say is this zone here, this line here, right here. Okay, this line right here is another area of, we could say, short-term support and resistance. All right, so that's where we are right now. We've actually pushed above this line now, and what we can expect is, okay, it may come down below this line. It may come down below this line, but we're on a trend here. So what I think might happen is it's going to struggle around this area here for a little while, okay, but then eventually it's gonna meet the point where 2 points meet around here, and it's gonna push off here. Because what we have to realize is we need, I mean, if you look at the price oscillators here, there's a few price oscillators here. There's a MACD here. Let's get rid of that. Yeah, anyway, so there's a MACD here, there's RSI, there's a stochastic RSI. These are the three oscillators that I tend to use, apart from the moving averages as well, right? So there's a few things of confluence here. Okay, on the 1 hour chart, if you can see this green line here, let me make this thicker so you can see it. Okay, so you can see the green line has crossed. It crossed, right? And as the green line crosses, it usually hugs, the price hugs the bottom of the green line, right? So as the green line goes up, it's just going to kind of bounce off the green line. Okay, you can see here when it did it last time, okay, the green line crossed and it just kind of hugged that green 10 EMA line all the way up. All right, so that's one thing. Okay, so that's one kind of confirmation we have here. Another thing, we have a MACD cross here at the bottom here. Okay, if we want more kind of significance on the 4 hour, it hasn't crossed yet, but guys, if we get a 4 hour MACD cross here, if we get a 4 hour MACD cross here, then that is bullish. I mean, another thing is, if you look at the 4 hour what we call the histogram here, this is a histogram, this middle part here is kind of getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and you can see right here we're on the verge of this histogram going to the positive, right? And so if we get this MACD cross right here, we will know within the next 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, we will know whether this is going to cross or not. And then if that happens, guys, then we're basically, you know, we're looking at a very kind of bullish next, I'd say 1 or 2 days, right? So that's another thing also. So now in terms of price, guys, if we look at the long term for NEO, let's look at the 12-hour chart here. Okay, if we look at the long term chart for NEO, how can we estimate the price of where it's going, like in the long term, right? I'm talking about the next like month or two, right? So let's look at these two cycles here. Now, after this cycle, if we take the Fibonacci retracement tool and we extend it out inversely, we can say that basically the price here hit the 261% zone here. The wicks, you can see two 12-hour wicks here. I mean, if you extend it, look at the 1 hour chart, it will be more clear. So you can see the price kind of hit the 261. Sorry guys, just turn that off. The 261% zone here, right? So what we can do, guys, if we want to take like price projections from here, we can use that same calculation and look at the other. We can look at the other price points here. So there's one here, which is okay. It's at this level here, the 0.0183 zone. Okay, and one here, okay, which is the 0.021. Okay, so that's kind of being conservative, guys, in all honesty. Sorry guys, I'll just turn my phone off. 1 second. There you go. So and that's kind of being conservative. Another way we can kind of look at the potential price projections is we could do the same thing we did here, but with this zone here. And for this, to be honest with you, let's use the 1 hour candles, and I'm going to do it just below the wicks and do it from this zone here. Yeah, from this area here. Okay, so you can basically see, all right, so this first price projection, from if you use this the last market cycle, the first price projections is towards the second price projection of the last one. Okay, and then the second price projection is moving way out, is towards the 0.032. Now that might sound ridiculous, guys. That might sound completely ridiculous, but if you look at the bigger picture, guys, it's not ridiculous at all. I mean, it really isn't. I mean, we could we could really, I mean, we could, in all honesty, if we let's see, draw some. This is more like a pitchfork. I think you'd use a pitchfork to do this. But if we look at the price projection, we could honestly say by the end of the year we could be at 0.032 BTC, right? So I mean, to put that into perspective, if we do get there, which obviously I'll be buying and selling along the way. I'm not just going to hold and hope that we get there. I'll be looking at the oscillators and things like that and making sure that that I'm selling and taking profit along the way, right? But if we just take a like, say for example, I take one of my prices where I purchased, say from here, go all the way up there to that price point there, that's like 450%, guys, right? So it's crazy. I mean, if you put in $10,000 there, you've ended up with $45,000, right? If you think about it like that, right? So all you have to do really is now, I believe NEO has started its new market cycle, and now we just got to manage the trades and track the price, manage the trades and track the price, and that means just keeping an eye on key support and resistance zones. You can quite easily, if you feel that it's going to have a big sell-off once it hits this resistance zones, which it could do. I mean, if we get to that resistance zone there and the indicators are showing that it's clearly overbought as well, then I would probably sell here and wait till it corrects again and repurchase before the next wave up. So that's basically what I'm looking at with NEO, guys. I know it's been quite a messy, quite a detailed video here, but there is, I definitely think NEO is on its way up, and once this this volume here starts to go up, and it's literally going up as we speak. You can see here, in the next day or two, I'm expecting this volume to kind of get up towards the 10,000. I mean, this is 4,500 Bitcoin here. If NEO keeps pushing, then I'm expecting this by this time tomorrow to be around the 10,000 Bitcoin range, and that's when, once this volume here starts going up, you can see this volume here. As the volume starts increasing, you can see it just kind of, the price explodes. You can see the volume here. If we take this for an example here, you can see a little increase in volume and the cycle has begun, and then it comes back down, and then the volume really starts to increase and the price just starts to go through the roof. Okay, so if we draw a comparison of where we are now compared to where we are here, I honestly think we're just around here. This zone here where we are now, in comparison to this market cycle here, we are most likely just in this little zone here. That's where I think we really are, right? So it's this, you can see how the volume kind of just went up here. We might not even be in this zone here, because you can see the volume here. The volume here compared to here is actually lower. And now that might be because China isn't in the game as well, because obviously a lot of volume was coming from China. It could be, or it could be that we're just not in that, we're not in that phase yet, right? We could be down here, which means once the volume does start really coming in, then guys, this NEO is just gonna completely take off again, right? So anyway, it's kind of watch this space time, and I'm kind of excited. I'm positioned, right at the bottom here, holding and looking forward to the journey up. So that's it, guys. Check out the links in the description. There's some good kind of resources there, some of the tools that I use, Bitcoin debit cards and exchanges, where to buy and sell cryptocurrency, stuff like that. And if you've got any questions, guys, my contact details will be in the description. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I'll see you on the next one.